The Traeger Woodridge just launched and there's a lot of hype surrounding it, but should you buy it or should you go with another pellet grill? I'm gonna give you my honest opinion on that in this video. Traeger sent me this Woodridge pellet grill, which is the entry-level smoker in their Woodridge series, and Traeger is not sponsoring me in any way. I wanted to clear that up from the outset. The only reason that I agreed to do this review is because I wanted there to be a unbiased and honest review out there at launch time because I knew there'd be a lot of hype and excitement surrounding this new product. Let's get this out of the way first because I know there's going to be a lot of dudes in Home Depot using this video as a way to decide whether to buy this product. That was me 5 years ago when I was in Home Depot buying my Traeger Pro 575. So I'll give you the answer up front. The answer is yes, this is a good buy. But unlike when I was buying my Traeger Pro 575 5 years ago, there is a ton of competition on the market. And the new Woodridge pellet grill is not without its downsides. So if you want something to sway you one way or the other, let's get into it, starting with the pros. First pro, the Woodridge has 860 square inches of cooking surface, which is a ton of cooking surface. It's more than the average person will ever need. And this much cooking surface in an entry-level smoker for just $799 is extremely good value for money, in my opinion. The other day, I cooked a bunch of chicken breasts on it with some vegetables for my family of just 2 adults and 2 kids. And as you can see, I could have cooked triple or quadruple that amount if I really wanted to. The second pro is yes, you can smoke a brisket on it and you can smoke a really damn good brisket on it. It has a large upper rack, which you can easily fit a brisket on. You could actually fit 2 small briskets on this upper rack because it's so large. And that's one of the main improvements I see of the Woodridge over the Pro 575, which I previously owned and only has a skinny upper rack, which you cannot fit a brisket on. And let me explain why this upper rack is so important by showing you how I smoked a brisket. First, I trimmed and seasoned a choice grade brisket with some of my Smoke Trails BBQ brisket rub and Let's Gow general purpose rub, both available on Amazon by the way, that I placed it on the top rack of the Woodridge with 2 water pans underneath it full of water to blunt the direct radiant heat from below. This is very important. When you're cooking a brisket on a pellet grill, you simply cannot cook it on the bottom grate. There is too much radiant and direct heat coming from below, and it's going to dry out and burn the bottom of your brisket, especially if you're cooking at any temperature above 190 degrees Fahrenheit. But with a large upper rack, you can place your brisket on the upper rack. You can put the water pans below it to blunt that direct radiant heat so you don't burn the bottom of your brisket. You're also creating humidity in the cook chamber, which is very important because there's a lot of convection in pellet grills and that can dry out your meat really easily. But most importantly, all of that convective heat that is coming up from the fire pot and being pushed out by the fan is now being redirected around the water pans and it's getting to the top of the brisket to render the fat cap, which is so important when you're cooking brisket. If you don't properly render the fat cap and you don't have enough top-down heat getting to it, you get that really thick, hard, white, opaque fat, which your guests are just gonna peel off. You want high heat getting to the top of the brisket so you can render it down and it gets caramel colored and ooey gooey and delicious. To be honest, it's to the point now where I won't even consider a pellet grill unless it has a large upper rack because it's absolutely essential for cooking brisket. And that's why I'm glad that the Woodridge has a super large upper rack. Next, I smoked the brisket at 170 to get some extra smoke flavor, foil boated it to protect it and keep it juicy, and then I cranked the temperature up to 300 degrees, which is really needed, as I said before, to properly render the top of the fat cap. Then I kept cooking the brisket around 12 hours total for this entire cook until the brisket probed somewhat tender around 195 degrees, took it off, wrapped it with some clarified butter, and held it in my holding oven at 150 for 18 hours until the next day. Look at this brisket. The top bark is dark like Texas style brisket, and when I sliced into it, it was super juicy and tender. Even the very tip of the flat was extremely juicy. So I was very impressed that I could cook a real Texas style brisket on this pellet grill. That being said, did I get a ton of smoke flavor? Not really, but more on that later. Third pro, it doesn't need the internet to operate. You can operate it manually, no problem, but it is wireless enabled, so you can control it remotely from anywhere in the world, and that is so convenient. So let's say you're at your kid's baseball game and you see your brisket is getting up to 203 degrees and you don't want to overcook it, and you're like 20 kilometers away, you can open the Traeger app, you can decrease the temperature to 170, so it starts decreasing in temperature, and by the time you're home, you could theoretically just slice into that brisket if you really wanted to. I mean, I'd probably rest it a little bit longer, but you get my meaning. The other thing that's super cool is it integrates with the Traeger wireless probe, which my understanding is it's basically a rebranded Meter probe. Traeger bought Meter and now they own it, and now they've made a rebranded Traeger probe that specifically integrates with the Woodridge series of pellet grills. I don't know if it works, how it works. I don't know where to buy it. So just that caveat up front. I haven't used it before, but in theory, if it works, that's pretty cool. Another feature that I didn't think I'd care about too much, but it made life extremely easy when I went to clean the wood ridge. It has a system where you can just brush all of the ash into the ash bucket and then remove the ash bucket along with all the grease and dump it in the garbage. It is probably the easiest pellet grill to clean. And with this system, you don't need to go to the extra step to buy a shop vac, which you do have to do with a lot of other pellet grills because that's the only way to clean them. And it has little hooks so you can hook the grates on the front of the grill while you're cleaning it and the drip deflector. This doesn't seem like a really big deal, but it is kind of annoying when I'm cleaning my pellet grills and I just have to place them on the ground and then I get my concrete pad all dirty. I have to hose down the concrete pad afterwards. But with this, I can hang the drip deflector, the grates on the side of the grill, and it's all super easy and convenient. So I kind of appreciate that feature. Fourth and final pro, the Woodridge is only $799, which in my opinion is extremely good value for money. For all the cooking surface you're getting compared to other pellet grills, you're getting the Wi-Fi capabilities with remote control, the ability to hook up the Traeger wireless probe, you're getting the easy clean features, you're getting the big upper rack so you can smoke brisket really well. All that for $799, that is really good value for money. Now, that being said, there are other pellet grills, cheaper pellet grills out there on the market that are less money with arguably the same feature set and cooking surface. So if $799 is above your budget and you only have something like $500, $400, then maybe one of those other pellet grills is worth taking a look at. But in my opinion, anecdotally, I've owned a lot of those cheaper pellet grills, and when putting them together, some of the parts don't line up or some of the parts don't fit together at all because they're made with cheap materials and they're just poorly engineered, and some of them don't really last. I've had pellet grills fail on me in the past, and the previous version, the Pro 575 of the Traeger that I owned, which I consider Traeger's kind of flagship model, and I think this Woodridge is replacing the Pro 575 as Traeger's flagship model, in my opinion. That grill lasted me for years and I never had any issues with it. Okay, let's talk about the cons now. First con is that the smoke flavor that the Woodridge produces is pretty weak compared to other pellet grills on the market right now. It also doesn't have any new innovations that we see in the market, like a smoke box to burn hardwood chunks or chips for extra smoke. Usually the lower temperature you can go to on a pellet grill, the more smoke you can produce because the pellets are smoldering at those lower temperatures, producing more smoke. But unfortunately, you can only go down to 170 degrees Fahrenheit on this model. No change from the previous model, the Pro 575. So it's not like it's a step back or anything, but I would have liked to see the ability to go down to 150, to be honest. So if you really want more smoke flavor, you can buy the Pro or Elite version, which has a super smoke mode, or you could do overnight smokes at 170, so you're exposing the brisket or pork shoulder or whatever you're cooking to the highest amount of smoke for a long time before you crank up the temperatures in the morning to finish it. Or you could add a pellet tube or tray to get some extra smoke, but you kind of have to do something to get some extra smoke flavor out of this. It's not going to just give it to you, especially if you're cooking at temperatures above 200 degrees Fahrenheit. Second con, there is no removable sear plate in the drip deflector. A lot of other pellet grills today have a little plate that you can either slide or remove, and it provides you direct access over the burn pot so you can properly sear steaks and get to those high temperatures. The Woodridge does not have that, and in my view, you can't really get a good sear on steak or chicken or any sort of fast cooking direct sear meat. There are some ways around that. If you want to go for a really DIY crazy method, you can just completely remove the drip deflector and the heat deflector and grill over top of the burn pot, but then you risk getting grease in the burn pot and it's a fire hazard, it's hard to clean. Probably not recommended by Traeger, but I've seen some people do it. The other way is you can get a product called grill grates, which are designed to give you better sear marks on your steak, but that's just going to give you better sear marks. It's not necessarily going to increase the temperature to such a degree that you get similar searing as you would on, let's say, a gas grill or a charcoal grill. So the real solution is to get this for all your smoking needs and then to get a cheap gas grill or charcoal grill. Like pick up a Weber kettle for 50 bucks on Facebook Marketplace and use that for searing your steaks and your chicken and all that kind of stuff. That's personally what I do, and I think it's the best solution because those types of grills are made for direct heat searing. Third con is I wish there was some kind of better protective cover or overhang over top of this digital display. I was spraying some water on the grill to kind of simulate what would happen in rain and see if the grill held up. And there was no leakage or anything. I didn't see any water getting into the pellets and soaking them. But what I did notice is that when the water touched the touchpad, it actually activated it and switched it through the menus. It didn't stop the grill or anything like that, but it had me kind of concerned, and it has me thinking, how long is this thing gonna hold up when I introduce it to the elements like rain and snow, and I'm smoking for a long period of time in a rainstorm, for example? I'm hoping there's no issues with it, but it has me kind of concerned. Fourth con, it doesn't go down to 150 degrees. A lot of people in the barbecue world are holding their meat at lower temperatures like 140, 150. I do it all the time because I think it's A, more convenient, and B, it increases the quality of my barbecue. And I would really like to see pellet grills go down to 150. And I think if this went down to 150, that would also help with the smoke flavor because it would produce more smoke at 150 degrees. The final con is I have honestly no idea how this is gonna hold up over time. It has a good warranty period. I know Traeger has really good customer support. So I think that if something happens, they're gonna make good on it, but it's made of lighter weight material than previous models. I can just tell, like just by knocking on it and comparing it to my Pro 575. It's definitely lighter weight than other more premium pellet grills. It is, in my opinion, a little bit better material and a lot better engineering than some of the cheaper pellet grills on the market. So that makes me happy, but we're just gonna have to wait and see how it holds up over time. I agree with what Traeger's done here. They have lightened the material a little bit more. They have upped the engineering and really thought this through, all the way from assembly to how it's cleaned to how the Wi-Fi integrates with everything, the larger cooking surface, and they bundled all of that in to a $799 package. So I'm okay with the reduced thickness of the material and the more flimsy material, as long as it holds up over time. The coating seems solid, it seems pretty thick, and it doesn't seem like it's gonna flake off or rust, but we'll see. And overall, I like it. I'm putting myself in my own shoes 5 years ago when I was just starting out with pellet grills, coming from, offset smokers and charcoal smokers. I wanted something more convenient, and I really liked the Traeger Pro 575 and got excited about it. And I think 5 years ago, Steve would also get excited about this because it's affordable, it's got a ton of cooking surface, I can cook brisket, pork butt, and all the barbecue staples on it, and it's got the Wi-Fi connectivity, which I use a lot for remotely controlling my grill when I'm at my nephew's baseball game, so I like it. But should you buy the Woodridge? I think that depends on what kind of person you are. If you really value a really, really good sear on steaks or direct heat meat like chicken, I might look at another grill that has better searing capabilities because you cannot get a really good sear on the Woodridge as it stands right now. If you are really into barbecue and you like intense smoky flavors, might want to look at the Pro version or the Elite version of the Woodridge series or another pellet grill entirely. But if you're a casual barbecue dad who just wants to get into smoking and you want something easy, convenient, a low price point, a lot of cooking surface, it can do most barbecue meats with no problem, and you're gonna get really good results, and it's gonna be really easy, including easy to clean and operate. I think this is a really good buy. With the amount of cooking surface it has, the large upper rack, the Wi-Fi capabilities, and other features, it's kind of a no-brainer for me. $799, yes, it's a good buy. Thanks for watching, and happy smoking.